Hello, we're back again for another podcast. We missed the last two, kind of just out of laziness. We did Extreme Rules, but we kind of missed the other two just out of forgetfulness and laziness and other shit's going on. But we're back again to talk more wrestling.
Yeah. Yes. Hello again. We did. I think we have said on the previous podcast, like, look, if we don't have the questions, then it's just going to be us going, we've got nothing.
Yeah.
So the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been like we've hit I wouldn't say writer's block, but we just got nothing.
Nothing really substantial. Even now, I mean, the questions I've got together, they're fine, but they're not amazing.
Yeah, mine were kind of thrown together a bit like, oh, that'll do for one or two. But like I say, we did Extreme Rules, so we kind of cheated with like, well, we've done one this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want too much of us, do you?
No, not at all, no. You want us to, few and far between.
Yeah. Yes. So, do you want to use subscribe stuff?
Yeah, usual stuff, if everybody knows by now. SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Music, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You'll find us anywhere you want to listen to us waffle on again and again and again and again about wrestling. And I think Josh is starting this week with a question.
Yeah, I don't think there's any deaths again, which is in wrestling, which is a nice thing. But just to be nice, I think I want to attribute this one to Kairi Sane, who's now left the WWE.
Yeah, she's gone now.
And 3 years, time flies. And I mean, with what I saw, they did say, like, oh, she's leaving because she wants to go back to Japan. There might be a bit more to it. They're like, nah, fuck this company, I'm not happy. But, I've seen the tribute video, and, I thought she had a great career while she was there, so thank you, Kairi.
Yes.
Yes, so first question from me. Start off with a basic one. What do you think of the 24/7 championship? Not the belt, just the whole thing.
Well, the gimmick?
Yeah.
It's, to be honest, when it first came out, I was actually quite intrigued by it because it was basically like a PG version of the Extreme Championship thing.
A Hardcore Championship.
The Hardcore Championship, that was it. Yeah. It was because obviously they can't do that anymore, so this was a nice kind of go-between, and it was a nice way to get everybody that wasn't really doing much doing something. Mm-hmm. So I was generally quite intrigued. The belt looks awful, but I was intrigued by the gimmick. However, they've just made it R-Truth's belt, and that's what's annoying me. I liked it at the start and everything, and when he first got it and he keeps winning it back off these other people, it was quite funny and comical, and I quite enjoyed it. But they are just constantly doing it now, where it is literally his belt, and it's just like, no, the whole point of this is to change hands on a regular basis and form loads of these mini stories that go round and round and round. So it has so much potential for me, and I generally was intrigued at the start, but now I'm just so bored of it. I know that Truth doesn't have it at the moment, and Shelton Benjamin obviously has it as part of this stable, but it won't be long before Truth gets it back again. And this is why, it had all the promise in the world to make a lot of fun, a lot of interesting things go on, and they just, as usual, WWE have just completely fluffed it.
Yeah, I mean, when they announced it, I mean, I remember them saying, like, Mick Foley's coming to Raw to bring a new championship. And I did think, like, oh my God, he's like a hardcore legend. Maybe he's bringing the hardcore championship back. Then rumours speculated of, like, it's looking like that's the case. Well, it was kind of half right. Like, it's a new PG version of it, 24/7 championship. So, I was like you at the start. I'm like, all right, this could be interesting. But it became really apparent real quick. Like, this isn't going to be like, all right, we're pushing the limits a little bit and we're going a little bit hardcore again. It was a watered-down version of it. And I just thought, if you're going to water it down, why do it at all? It just seemed a cheap way to get other people involved on television.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, at first it started off kind of fun and interesting, of like people running after R-Truth or whoever who's got it. Then there was the whole Drake Maverick thing, which I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did enjoy. Yeah, the Drake Maverick stuff I did enjoy. That was like the main pocket of storyline that I enjoyed out of this whole thing.
Yeah, but again, I think now R-Truth's something like a 36-time 24/7 champion, and that's that's ridiculous. To the point now, when someone wins it off him, the question isn't like, well, what's going to happen next? It's like, well, when's R-Truth winning it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It seemed. I know Vince has got kind of a thing for R-Truth. He's quite a big fan of him.
He's got a soft spot for him.
Yeah, so it just seemed any excuse to throw a belt on Truth because Vince liked him so much, and in some like messed up way, Vince can go, well, R-Truth deserves the Hall of Fame. This is 35 time 24/7 champion.
7-Eleven, European, hardcore.
Don't get me wrong. I like R-Truth, and sometimes he is entertaining and he does make me laugh. But if the 24/7 championship was not mentioned for a month on television, I think it takes someone to go, hey, do you remember this? And we go, oh, yeah, that kind of thing. Like, you wouldn't miss it when it was gone.
It's quite forgettable.
So it'd be different if they did stuff with, like, how they did it with Drake Maverick and stuff. Even though the storyline is kind of the same, you can still create a story between 2, 3, however many people around this championship and around the rules.
Yeah, you can do, like I say, you can do what you did with Drake Maverick, and you built him up to a point where we generally quite like him as a character, and we're looking forward to seeing what he does continuing on. You can do that. Yeah. It should be a stepping stone to build a character up, to have a fun storyline, so that once they've lost the championship, you can go, well, what's next for him? We're looking forward to that. But all we're doing, it's the opposite. It's, when's R-Truth winning it back? It's nothing to do with whoever's in between. It's all to do with R-Truth, and it's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I think... I was going to say a struggling heel at first, and it still could work. But if you, in the early days, and they might be able to do it now if they want to try and save it, throw the 24/7 championship on a heel, someone like Baron Corbin, and for ages he just holds it. He gets away with it, like with the skin of his teeth, to the point that fans are salivating at the fact of like, who's going to finally take this belt off him? Because he's always bragging about it and showing it off and just being a complete cock about it, that it might give it a bit more just interest and not. I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for?
Prestige?
Huh?
Prestige?
Prestige, that's it, thank you. It might give it a bit of prestige, but at least the fans would be interested, maybe not in the fact of what the title stands for, but in the fact of like, I just want someone to shut Baron up.
Yeah.
So at that point, you just are going to levitate to someone beating him for that championship, and then whoever it is, as long as they don't fuck it up, you can hopefully it will snowball from there. But at the minute, it just seems to be there for no other reason than R-Truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
No,
personally.
It's going to take a lot for me to be interested with it again.
Yeah. Okay, your turn.
Okie dokie. So my first question is, with rumours starting to circulate that Drew McIntyre will potentially be dropping the title at some point in the near future, so he can have a nice win back with the crowd, as we all agree that he definitely deserves. Yeah. When do you think he'll lose it, and when do you think he'll regain it? I know they've got rumours round with Orton at the moment, with SummerSlam on the horizon, but again, at the moment they're just rumours. So if you generally think for yourself, what do you think it's going to be? When's he losing it? When's he getting it back?
I don't think he's losing it at SummerSlam. I just think it'd be not only... it's almost become the norm nowadays that at least one world heavyweight champion will lose the belt at SummerSlam, or there'll be a new one at SummerSlam. It's the same with Mania. You don't want it to become predictable, as in you're walking in going, there's definitely going to be a new champion. Otherwise, why watch the show if you can predict it?
Yeah.
So I think, and also Orton doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't, but he is on a really good heel tear at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it would make sense... Well, not the only way, but a good way it would make sense for me for Orton to lose is if Edge returns and costs him it.
Yeah, which could happen.
But Yeah, one of the main rumours at the minute, which I'm not on board with, is that WrestleMania 37 is Edge Orton again. Just to, like, almost a full circle thing with the story. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, but Edge is back. I'm fine with him starting against Orton, but he's not going to be back for long. I want him to go against other people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be SummerSlam, but it would not surprise me if it's not September, October pay-per-view.
Okay.
And this might not be, it's not a decision I'd want, but the fact that Brock isn't at SummerSlam, they might turn around and go, right, you're not at SummerSlam, you owe us one at another pay-per-view. So at Clash of Champions or Hell in a Cell, Brock might be the one to take the belt back.
I really hope not, because that ends up
ends
up being a repeat at Mania. When I don't get me wrong, I want Drew to win it back, absolutely, but it should be against somebody else, not the same person. It's the same thing with the Orton Edge thing. It should be somebody else.
Yeah, the only way I'd be down with it, I mean, it depends on when a live crowd is back. I mean, if Drew were to lose it at Clash of Champions, or a Raw around that time, and it was to Brock Lesnar, the only way I'd be okay with it is like, right, I want the rematch, Drew Lesnar, but it happens inside the cell, and Drew wins it back.
Yeah.
As much as I'd be okay with that, and the crowd would still give Drew a decent pop, if he loses the belt at September, whatever, and doesn't win it back till WrestleMania 37, the urgency from the crowd of wanting him to win it back, wanting to give him that pop, and having to wait and wait and wait for it to culminate again at WrestleMania 37, so almost wait 6 months, the pop will just be louder. The more you wait, the bigger the pop will be. That's my theory.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that kind of side of things, yeah, because like the anticipation builds. But the only thing I'm worried about is that Vince will change his mind, because he seems to change his mind quite a lot. So this is, for me, just to make sure it's safe and it's more watertight. For me, I want him to lose it at the Rumble, win an opportunity at the Elimination Chamber, and win it back at Mania, just because it doesn't give Vince a chance to really change his mind. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like, I feel like we're going to be happy for him regardless, and I just want that absolute certainty. I don't want that thing where we think, Vince could just suddenly go off Drew, and then that's it. He doesn't get his title reign the way we want it to, and that's what I don't want. I want to make sure that he gets what he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem with it, I think we discussed in the other podcast, is if Drew were to drop the belt at the Rumble and everything you said happened, as soon as he lost it at the Rumble, I think there'd be a lot of other people speculating that. And if it happened, I think it'd just become a bit predictable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then also there'd probably 50% of the fans going, well, okay, we get WrestleMania 36 was kind of not a failure, but a bit of a dud because there was no fans. But now we finally got Mania back to normal, and you're just kind of replaying what we saw at last year's one.
Yeah.
They might be on board with it, and like you say, they were like, finally we give him the pop he deserves. But others might just be right, we want something new. We want something fresh. Sorry that Drew didn't get his pop, but he did get the WWE Championship. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way they're going with what happened on SmackDown last week, Kofi giving Big E the blessing to go on a singles run.
Yeah.
I automatically thought, right, my money's on Big E to win the Royal Rumble.
Really?
Yeah, I was just thinking, if they're planting the seeds now and they build his singles push correctly, just this slow build over the next few months, I've got no problem with Big E winning the Royal Rumble.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against that. I mean, for me, I think they're going to go for the Intercontinental Championship storyline. I think it's going to be AJ Big E.
Yeah, but there's no reason why he can't win the Intercontinental title in between.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as Drew losing the belt, probably September, October time. Winning the belt, I really don't know. It could be Mania, or they could wait a long, long time. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on if they stick with a plan or Vince begins to change his mind again, like you say. And it depends on the crowd's reaction. What we want might not be what everyone else wants. So we could watch a Raw or SmackDown when it's back to normal, and the crowd might not be as hot for Drew as they once were.
Yeah.
You have to judge by what's working at the time. So, yeah, we'll see. Is it me?
Yeah.
Okay. Bit of a controversial one. It's been well documented by a lot of wrestlers for a long time that, well, we all know most of the time they're working hurt, injured. And when I mean injured, majority of the time it's minor injuries, like bone bruises, a couple of broken knuckles and fingers here and there. Every now and then you do hear a story of like the CM Punk one, like wrestling through a staph infection, or Matt Hardy wrestling with a hernia. Sometimes that's up to the wrestler. Matt Hardy decided to wrestle with a hernia because he had the opportunity to fight his brother at WrestleMania. So it was like, I'm not letting this opportunity slide. So at other times the WWE just kind of go, no, you're wrestling, tough shit. Where do you think the line is of wrestling hurt, and under whose discretion who should have the final word of whether I'm wrestling or not, do you think?
The final word on whether or not they're wrestling is down to the wrestler themselves. It shouldn't be down to the employer. Because at the end of the day, if you're in any other workplace and you're injured and your boss tells you you've got to work, you'll tell them, well, go fuck yourself because I ain't working, because I can't work. But if the wrestler decides I can do this, I can still do it, then that's up to them. That's their decision. They can do that. They can even sign a little waiver just to absolve WWE of any blame if she gets injured from this injury, stuff like that. But yeah, it is down to the wrestler. If they don't think they should be wrestling due to an injury that they've got, then the WWE should take it seriously and go, right, well, we'll take you off and we'll figure something else out. It's more than doable because Vince constantly changes his mind on a whim and rips up scripts 4 hours before a show goes live. So he's more than able to reorganise stuff in a different way if someone does get injured and decides not to wrestle. So the WWE should never, ever tell someone, I don't care if you're injured, you're wrestling. What they should be doing is goes, how do you feel about it? Do you want to do it? Or do you think, it's no good, we should take you off? Ask the opinion of the wrestler, let them make the final decision, and then you work it around from there. That's called protecting your staff, protecting your people, and it shows that you care. Rather than just caring about your product and caring about your money, you care about the performers that are there. And if you care about them and you put that effort in, they will work harder for you in the process and you'll get a better product overall.
It's kind of a complicated, because obviously the WWE doctors, in theory, should have the final say of we've examined you and either, okay, you're good to go or you're not. This is the results or whatnot. But even some of the WWE doctors have been rumoured to be a bit dodgy.
Well, no, yeah, because the reason is because they've got agendas, and the reason is because they're underneath Vince McMahon. So they don't want to fucking upset the apple cart. So they'll just, if they're going to make sure that they're not going to get in trouble by Vince, they'll just say, oh no, he's fine, even though he's not. Clearly, Punk's thing is an obvious reason. So, yeah, I don't trust the WWE doctors at all.
No, I mean, it'd be unprofessional if they're he's not clear, but Vince says he has to wrestle. I agree. But if I was in that position where something happened, I heard a pop or whatnot in my shoulder and it didn't feel right, WWE doctors said, we can pass you off. He goes, it don't feel right. You're fine. I'd go and get a second opinion from a doctor outside the WWE.
Yeah, which is your right.
But... yeah, but I think there needs to be because, like you say, if a wrestler just turns around and goes, you know what, I don't feel right, and it's a minor injury. I mean, we need to know that there's got to be a line, because obviously, if Drew McIntyre got injured, if everything was normal and there was going to be 100,000, 80,000 people at WrestleMania, and Drew McIntyre got injured the week before WrestleMania. If it was a broken leg, then fine. He ain't wrestling. It sucks. We got to do something else. if there was some kind of injury where it was like, look, the WWE says we don't think you should wrestle because this could happen, it could cause further injury, it could end your career. But Drew turns around and says, well, I'm wrestling, this is WrestleMania, this is what I've been waiting for. There's got to be someone to kind of step in and go, have the final say, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there is, but this is the point where if that person decides that he or she feels fine to wrestle, and WWE is still not sure, then that is their point to put forward the paperwork and say, look, you need to sign this, absolving us of any blame, because we have told you, and if you put it down in writing, we have told you we don't think you're safe to wrestle. However, you decide that you want to do it, then you sign away those rights by signing it on the dotted line. If someone is generally that passionate about wrestling that weekend, thinking they're fine, they'll have no problem signing that thing.
Yeah, I agree. But wouldn't it be horrible to, if again, just use Drew as an example. Drew went in with whatever injury against Brock Lesnar, did exactly what you said, and we wouldn't be aware of it as fans. We're just like, this is awesome. And something happened in the match where Drew just collapsed, and then it came out that he's never going to wrestle again. We'd be sitting there going, well, why the fuck did the WWE let him wrestle like that?
Yeah, but eventually it would come out, wouldn't it? Eventually they'd say, well, this is what it was. And Drew would probably, people like Drew and that, if they're passionate and they're honest, they'll say, well, it's all my fault. I signed away the rights because I wanted to wrestle. They advised against it. I did it anyway. So it's down to honesty and passion for your product.
Yeah, sometimes I sometimes think, unfortunately, as harsh as it is, with the minor injuries, whether it be, if you got a bruise or a broken finger, you can wrestle the next night. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
but
take your finger up on you.
But if it's something like, maybe not a torn muscle, but, like a proper muscle spasm, like you see Cesaro and Bayley have to wear that tape and stuff. It's easy for a casual fan to look at it and go, what's that? If they're injured, they shouldn't be wrestling. But the thing is, if every time a wrestler had a minor injury like that, or maybe not minor, but an injury like that, to the point they said, right, you don't wrestle till you're healed, there'd be no storylines. It'd fuck up so many storylines. The roster would diminish. You'd never be able to have longevity in anything. So, unfortunately, sometimes I think wrestlers need to wrestle through injuries.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day they do. I don't think the majority of the wrestlers are forced to wrestle through an injury. It's a very rare occurrence. If they think they're fine, they'll probably go and do it. They say they take themselves up, they crack on with it. I'm just saying I don't think any of the wrestlers on the roster, male or female, are taking the piss and going, oh, well, I've got a bruised fingernail, so I think I might take the day off.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them are doing that because they're so passionate about the product and about their character and about the business and that they want to be there and they want to do stuff that they wouldn't do that kind of stuff. So any time that they pop up saying, I'm generally hurt here, I don't think I can wrestle, you've got to take them at the word and assume it's genuine and not think that they're taking the piss. Because I just don't see anyone out there wanting to do that. They all want to wrestle because it's their job. It's the thing they love so much. So if they to say, I can't do it, it must be genuine and you have to take them at their word.
Yeah, I mean, the only people, one's a rumour, one is, I'm pretty sure is fact. Sin Cara once asked for a match to be stopped because he broke his finger during it. I'm like, look, I get you broke your finger, but you need to man up in a situation. When you're live on Raw, capacity crowd, if your leg had popped out of its socket, fair dues. But a broken finger, it's like, you got to man up. You got to just grit your teeth and get on with it. And then there was the whole thing with when Shawn Michaels dropped the belt in like early '97 because he said he hurt his knee. There was rumours for ages that it was just because he was meant to drop the belt back to Bret Hart at that year's Mania, and he hated him so much back then that he didn't want to, so he feigned an injury. Now, Shawn Michaels was a dick back then. So it's hard to say. Like you say, you should. I agree. You should take the wrestler's word in it. Like, I genuinely don't feel like I'm well enough to wrestle. But then there is people like Shawn Michaels that might take the piss every now and then.
Yeah, I think
you go, well, you just fucked everything up, storyline wise, product wise, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a case by case basis overall.
Hey,
I think it's a case by case basis overall.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, if you looked, if that Last Ride series is any any answer. Taker was wrestling through so many injuries to the point I was looking at him like, dude, you shouldn't even be walking right now, let alone wrestling. What the hell are you doing? So it should be wrestler's discretion, but sometimes I think the WWE not only have to step up to the point of like every now and then they have to tell them, no, you're not wrestling, but they need to step up a bit more when they are injured and they tell them to go out there when they shouldn't. There has to be a line put, and unfortunately there's no middleman to say, I don't care what WWE say, I don't care what you say, this is what's going to happen.
This is why I think with the doctor, I think they should scrap the WWE doctors, and I think they should have an outsourced neutral
Outside
doctor.
doctors.
Yeah, so you bring people, you contract doctors in, and you don't have your own ones because again, the doctors have agendas. If you have doctors that are contracted out that are impartial on both sides, that is your middleman, and that is the easiest and best way to do it.
Yeah, recently they've been good. I'll give them that. Like the last couple of years, when there's ever been a neck injury to Edge or Bryan or Paige or whatever, they've just picked up the phone and said, "Look, you're done. We can't risk your health like that when it's a neck injury." And I don't care if it's a minor one or not. Since the Benoit tragedy, if you've got a concussion, you're not wrestling.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. It's not worth the risk.
No.
So yeah, I think needs to be, like saying, outside source.
Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, your girl.
Okay, with one of the best storylines we're having in a while now with Banks and Bayley, this whole thing they're building up and everything, which I'm all for. I'm really enjoying it. A lot of people aren't liking the fact that they're holding all the gold because they think it's taken away from other people. But I think where it's temporary, I think eventually everybody's going to be stripping them of gold.
Yeah.
Great storyline. I'm enjoying it. My question is, who do you think will screw who first in the storyline? Whether it be intentionally or not, who do you think is screwing who first?
See, I generally don't think it'll be a screw over thing. Because I thought about this if I were going to book it. I don't know when and I don't exactly know how. But look, for example, Clash of Champions coming up in September means every belt's on the line. And I thought about it. So I thought, shit, if they're holding all the gold by then they've got to both wrestle twice. They've got to defend the women's tag titles, then Sasha's got to defend the Raw title, and then Bayley's got to defend the SmackDown. And I thought, what would happen if they just lost all of it?
I'd love that.
In one night.
I'd love that.
First they had the women's tag championship thing, and it's nobody's fault, but then, they're kind of looking at each other like not wanting to blame each other, but they're kind of like giving each other that kind of treatment of like, yeah, one of us cocked up. What's happening here? Then Bayley goes out, loses a SmackDown championship, and she's like yelling at Sasha like, "Where were you?" Because I thought you had it. Anyway, it's my go. Sasha goes out there, loses the Raw Women's Championship, goes back to Bayley like, "Where were you?" That I think it'll be almost clean losses to the point that they both realise maybe they're not that good, and they just organically turn on each other of like the blame game.
Okay.
Of like, you didn't have my back, or what the hell's going on? Yeah, they're so pissed off with themselves that they lost their championships that it just naturally implodes between them.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, because otherwise, I don't know. Originally, I think I said this at the start of the storyline. I thought when it gets down to Sasha and Bayley, Bayley's such a good face and Sasha's such a good heel. I love that dynamic. Bayley turns back to face, Sasha's still a bitch. There's your story. But Bayley's doing so well as a heel now.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't actually be against it being the other way around.
Yeah.
Of like the possibility, because Bayley's held the SmackDown Women's title a long time now. To the point, maybe Bayley loses the belt, Sasha doesn't, and it's just the basic Bayley gets jealous storyline.
Yeah, that's the thing. in my opinion, I think it is going to be Bayley that screws Sasha in some way, whether it be unintentionally or anything, or they can't. She makes it out like it's unintentional and she didn't mean to do it, but then you can kind of see it in her eyes. It's like, yeah, I meant to do that. I'm pissed off. That kind of it's kind of like you've got to read between the lines, and it's unsure. So Sasha's unsure of her intentions and what she should do next, and that kind of stuff. So it doesn't just happen with a click of a finger. It's a slow implosion. But I still think it will be Bayley that does it, and it will turn Sasha face.
I think it needs to be a 4 to 5 month build. I know the storyline's been going on a while now anyway, but I can see them losing, still being riding high for the next couple of months. They tear through SummerSlam still with all the gold. Maybe SummerSlam, they lose the tag champion, Clash of Champions, they lose the Women's Tag Championship. So that's when things start to go, all right, there's a few cracks here. The next month or so, more cracks begin to form. And then at Survivor Series, obviously, if they're going to go with the Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT thing, Sasha and Bayley will have to go against each other, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, that's true.
So it'd be Sasha, Bayley, Io at the minute with the way the championships stand. And maybe a miscommunication in that match means neither of them win. Io wins the triple threat, and then the storyline just goes from there.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential with this storyline. There's loads of places that they can do it at any point, which makes it more interesting because, we can't put our finger on when it's going to happen and how. It's just very intriguing to find out, to want to know when they're going to pull the trigger.
They've thrown multiple hooks out there for the fans of like what we just discussed of what if they do it this way?
Yeah.
What if they do it that way? And they might just go out left field and do a storyline we haven't thought of it could be anything from a surprise return to just anything. I mean, I kind of hope this doesn't happen, but can you imagine if they held the gold for 10 months? They just ruled the women's division for 10 months to the point that even the fans might, if they do it right, the fans might be looking at it like, holy shit, these girls are dominating. But if they do it wrong, it's going to be like, this got boring quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got to be careful, but at the minute, they're running on all cylinders.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm still intrigued in which way it will go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it my final one?
Yes, it is.
I don't know. This might be really easy for you or really difficult for you. Who was more important in the long run, NWO or Degeneration X?
Oh. Christ, that is really hard, actually. Because my gut instinct was to say NWO based on just how out of freaking nowhere it kind of came, really, with the whole Hogan turning heel thing. That was such a shock. But Degeneration X was kind of like a slow builder. You know what I mean? It started and they built it to a point where it got to where it was. It wasn't just it exploded. They kind of built this kind of faction together, and more we just started to enjoy it so much. But NWO was just a massive shock factor. It was the one thing that back in those days you never thought you would ever see. You never thought you would see Hogan turning heel and building this faction together. And I think for that, I think maybe the NWO ends up being the more important one, just because of the unpredictability, the unprecedentedness of it, and the genuine thoughts of this is never going to happen. Degeneration X is a load of characters that were all kind of good and they're kind of put together, and it made sense. When they all came together, it made sense. It was fun. But the NWO was just not something you thought of, and then it just kind of happened, and you're like, fuck me, this is everything I never knew I wanted. So I'd say NWO is probably the more important, but only by a hair.
As a fan of, from the get-go, I was always a WWE guy, not WCW. I was fine with WCW, but I kind of joined 3/4 of the way through the Monday Night War.
Yeah.
And I was aware WCW was on Channel 4 at the time and all that, but to me, the likes of Austin, Rock, Taker, and DX, that's what I was drawn to with the WWE. So, as a fan, I preferred Degeneration X because they were the pranksters, they were funny,
absolutely,
all that stuff. But as far as importance goes, the NWO, because to me, the formation of them is what properly kicked off the Monday Night War.
Yeah, because again, it's so out of left field. For the first time ever, WWE on the back foot, thinking, well, "Fuck, we got to react. What do we do?"
Well, I mean, I don't know if they had many altercations on television when they were in the WWE, but it's well documented that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, Razor, and Diesel were good friends backstage. But again, this is where kayfabe was still alive and well when Scott Hall went to WCW. Out of left field, no one saw that coming because they didn't know about contracts with the internet back then. It's just like Razor Ramon's in WCW. What the hell's going on? And then Kevin Nash turns up. They go, okay, what's going? They genuinely thought it was a WWE invasion.
Yeah.
And then to turn it on its head, like you say, of having Hulk Hogan, the biggest face in the history of the company, suddenly just betray everyone and become this faction which was very similar to DX in a way. I mean, a lot of people say DX ripped off the NWO, but to me, where DX was kind of like the cast of Jackass.
Yeah, they're a bit more goofy with it. NWO were a little bit more kind of aggressive with the way they carried themselves.
They were the gang.
Yeah.
They were the rebel. DX were rebels, but NWO were like pure rebellion of like...
Yeah.
They will purposely just do the opposite of what they should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, Degeneration X would flip you the bird and laugh while doing it, but NWO would flip you the bird and then kick you in the bollocks.
Yeah, DX was kind of that staple of like, we're going to have fun, we're going to have a laugh, and even when they were heel, they were still doing that kind of stuff, but it was to gain as far as, I want that championship, and I want that main event. NWOs went further than that of like, we want to take over WCW. We want to take over all of wrestling. Yeah. It's the equivalent, and like I say, with the fact that Hogan joined them, it's the equivalent now of AJ Styles and Finn as heels reforming the club, and then John Cena joining them.
Yeah.
It's if that happened, my mind would just explode.
Yeah.
So for WCW, Bischoff, whoever the idea was, to be that smart and ballsy to create the NWO, to me, that was the catalyst for Monday Night War, Attitude Era, maybe even the catalyst for DX themselves.
Yeah.
So I'd go the NWO probably more important.
Yeah, definitely.
But I love DX.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
I prefer DX.
Yeah, but it's NWO, definitely.
Yeah, they were more impactful. Final question.
Last question. It's just a nice, simple one. Who do you think will be the next NXT North American champion? With obviously Keith Lee relinquishing the title, so to give someone else a chance to win. So far, we've got what's his face that's won, the big dude. I can't remember his name now.
Oh, Divakovic.
No, not Divakovic. The other big dude. I can't remember his bloody name.
Oh. Karrion Kross.
No, not Karrion Kross. What's his freaking name? The big dude.
I say I've kind of watched NXT in a while, so I'm kind of.
I've forgotten his name. Here, I've literally forgotten his name.
See, my next question was like, well, who's in the ladder match so far?
I guess Dexter Lumis won the triple threat.
Right.
So he's in it. This big dude's in it, and as far as I know, I don't have anyone else in it, but. Not at the moment, anyway. But, I mean, who would you kind of want to be the next NXT North American champion?
Well, they kind of, and maybe not confirmed, but pretty much put the feelers out there that it's going to be Karrion Kross, Keith Lee for the NXT championship.
Yeah, that's pretty much dead set. So, yeah, Karrion's out of it. It's not happening.
Okay. I think then... I think it's got to be Divakovic because I think the ladder match will do what Triple H needs to do at the minute of bringing these new stars up to a level because we discussed like it's not going to be long before Undisputed Era gets called up, Johnny Gargano and all that stuff. So I think for the most part, the ladder match have put a spotlight on the newer blood, like Dexter and the big guy we can't remember and stuff.
Bronson Reed.
Yes, there you go.
That's the guy. Yeah. Bronson Reed. I definitely did not Google that.
I saw you doing something. Yeah, but with Divakovic, they did this smart thing of that rivalry with Keith Lee. He can never. I think he's beat Keith Lee before, but he can never beat him for the big one or for a championship. So he deserves a championship. I think if he won it, the fans will be like, "Oh, finally!" And I think he'd be a good North American champion. But you can keep that storyline going for a future date, whether it be at NXT or when they both get called up to the main roster. Of when it comes down to those two, Dominic can't beat Keith when it matters.
Yeah.
And it's the same with what they did with Asuka. Asuka was undefeated at NXT, and for a while they kept that storyline going on the main roster. It's the same situation, just a different storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Dominic deserves to have the North American Championship.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, that's no doubt in my mind. Yeah, I think he's well deserved it. He's a really cool character. Again, like I say, the story with Lee is just really, really just nicely woven and done well. However, I think it's going to be Dexter Lumis.
I'll be fine with that.
Because he's a really interesting character. He's very creepy and everything, and he's not necessarily face or heel. He's kind of sat in the middle. So if he's a title holder, you can kind of chuck anybody at him for a feud, heel or face, and it will work fine. I like his creepy persona. I like his moveset and his character that he's built. And the way he kind of won this triple threat, it's not like definitive that Balor lost, so there's no reason they can't have a feud at some point. I really like him, and I think if he's holding that gold, I think that makes it quite interesting. I wouldn't be against it. I mean, Bronson Reed as well, I like him, but I don't like him enough yet. I haven't seen enough of him to want to go, that's the guy I want. But Dexter Lumis, I wouldn't be against having gold.
What I'd love is if they, is it 5 or 6 that are going to be in the ladder?
I think it's 5.
Right. If they announce 4 and they go, right, 5th member's going to be a surprise. If it's a new signee, then fair enough. I'm fine with that. Hopefully someone that people have heard of from like the indie scene or something like that, like an old Impact star or something. But I'd love it to be someone they either re-signed from that release list, but they kept it close to the chest of like, holy shit, they've re-signed him. Or do what they did with like Charlotte and Finn, if someone's come back down from the main roster to NXT to kind of reinvent themselves. And if that were the case, I'd love it to be Bobby Roode.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I can see him with the North American Championship, and that sits nicely.
Yeah. I mean, I've got no problem with Finn winning it.
He's
not in it.
No, Finn's not in it now because he lost his chance. But I don't think that. I think he will be winning that at some point in his career in NXT again. I think it's due. It's going to happen. What about Ciampa though? Because Ciampa at the moment they said creative has nothing for you. What if he's the surprise and wins it? Keeps him in NXT for a bit longer because he's no interest in going to the main roster.
It does. It depends in which way they want to go. I mean, because some people might see it as, well, he's been there not too long, but he's been there long enough to not really need it. He's kind of holding the other stars down. Where other people might see it as like now he's North American champion. When he's defending the championship against them, he can bring them up to his level.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't know. I see the North American Championship as like, this is that the for the fresh blood.
Yeah.
Of like, this is the next guy to watch. Like they did with Keith.
Yeah.
As soon as Keith won the North American Championship, it was like, right, he's going to be an NXT champion one day. And lo and behold, that's happened. I mean, I'm not even sure if I like the fact that he just gave it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not either. I would have liked to see him lose it. However, the way he kind of did it, he literally said, "Look, I'm relinquishing this because I want to give other upstarts this chance to prove themselves. So the way that he kind of delivered his promo on why he's advocating, that all sits fine. But yeah, if I'm completely honest, I would prefer him to lose it, from someone. Like I say, if it was Dijakovic, that would be fine, because that polishes off their story in NXT nicely.
Yeah, it was like, don't get me wrong, the way he did it, full-on face promo to the point of like, he almost did a perfect heel reversal promo of like, if this was a heel, he'd be like, I've got all the gold, I'm holding it, fuck you all.
Yeah.
He obviously did the exact opposite, which is full-on face. So, I don't know, it kind of made what happened at the Great American Bash a bit irrelevant to me. Of like, both belts on the line, so you'd be a double champion, and now you've like, okay, fair enough, you won the NXT championship, but now you're not a double champion.
I think they're just trying to keep Keith Lee as strong as humanly possible, and the less pins he eats, the stronger he is.
I agree. Yeah, it's the same with what we said about Bray. Like, if Bray was to become champion again, if he was defending it as the Fiend and was going to lose, I'd rather him lose in a triple threat fatal four-way format where someone else gets pinned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got to start, now that The Undertaker's 90% retired, we're still not
100%.
sure.
I'll never be 100% until 6 years later when he physically can't stand up. Then I'll be...
when he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's fine. Then I'll know.
Yeah,
even then, he'd probably just wheel himself down to the fucking ring.
Yeah, keep rolling. Yeah, now that he's 90% done, I mean, as much as I love him, everyone knows he was one of the most protected characters in all time. Now that he's gone, they need to start building up characters to that kind of caliber again of like, for years down the line, it's still, whether they've been defeated in the past or not, it's like, it's still going to take a shit ton of effort to beat guys like Keith Lee, like Brock Lesnar, like Drew McIntyre. And they're doing it okay at the minute. But like I said, they nearly dropped the ball with Bray because the whole Goldberg thing.
Yeah.
But, so... Yeah, to go back to your real question, I think Dominic. I'll put him as my favourite.
I'm gonna stick with Lumis, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Just as a quick side note before we depart, did you hear who debuted in AEW the other night?
No.
Zack Ryder's now there.
Oh, is he? Oh, brilliant. Yeah, okay, good.
That's obviously a different name. I can't remember the character, but he looked jacked.
Yeah, well, to be honest, when I saw Heath Slater, he looked fucking jacked as well.
Yeah, maybe there've been steroids in between companies.
This other guy as well, he's jacked anyway, but he's bigger than I've ever seen him. Have you seen the recent picture of Reigns working out?
Oh, God, yeah.
Fucking hell, he's giving Lesnar a run for his money. He looks huge.
Yeah, the only bad news, it's just rumour at the minute, but rumour is Rusev's done with wrestling.
Yeah, he's saying about that. He just doesn't want to do it. He's got no passion anymore. Shame, really.
It's a shame, but like we said with the Taker thing, at the end of the day, it's the wrestler's decision what they want to do.
Yeah, if they're not happy, they're not happy.
As a man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah, and right at the very end, you're covering your microphone.
Sorry. At least you did it at the end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Right, so like, subscribe, and we'll be back in another week for this. And SummerSlam's 3.
SummerSlam's a while.
Yeah, it's a while now. So we've got a few more of these yet before SummerSlam. So we'll be back next week.
Yes. Bye all.
Bye.